Hello, 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 and welcome back to Our Four Cents. I'm Edmond Lee, and this is Stephanie Lee, and we
Hi,
are.
the Lees.
All right, so we had a really cool series for you. So this series is so loaded and so packed that we're going to break it up into three videos. It's pretty much 9 things that you really want to know before marriage, or even if you are married, that will just kind of prep you and just kind of get you to have what we think is a better and healthier marriage. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we're even doing this, just so you all are understanding that today's marriage is different than our grandparents and our parents even, and so you can learn something from people that are married, just kind of just got married, people that are engaged, people that went from 10 years to 20 or 30 years of marriage, or even 5 years or whatever. So we want to tell you some things that are prevalent in the digital age of the time that we're creating this, but also in the golden years later on in our lives, and even things that worked for our parents. So
Well,
go
before we
ahead.
get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and also the notification bell so you can be the first to know when we post our videos.
Yeah, and you definitely want to do that this video, because the series is going to continue and you're going to want to get the other videos in this series. So, Steph, let's start off with the first one. What would you say is one of the major things that people need to kind of think about before they get married, or even if they are married?
Okay, so I would say the little things. So the little things are actually big things. When we look at marriage and we look at relationships, we look at them in terms of like a movie. When we look at a movie, we see like some of the big action stuff or the big romantic things, some of the stuff that sticks out. Everything is a climax. Well, in relationships and in marriage, especially consistent marriage, it's about the little things. And I don't remember who I was listening to, but I was listening to somebody who was talking about their success and how their success was actually quite boring because it was the consistency of doing the same thing
Warren
every
Buffett.
day. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
there it is. So it's the consistency of doing the same thing every day. If you think about people who are good at their diet and very healthy, they're not like extravagant eaters all the time. They are pretty consistent with their diet and it's pretty monotonous. And I think that's where the little things come into a relationship and why it's important, because we don't pay attention so much to the little things. We get caught up in the big things, vacations, trips, anniversaries, the wedding, the birth of a child. All of those things are very specific moments, and if we don't get caught up in what are the little things, which is the daily, actions, the acknowledgement of love languages, the attention that your spouse needs, or the support that they need in so many capacities, then we miss the mark. So I think the little things are big things.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that. I'll make it really plain for guys, because I know we're like Neanderthals at times. We're like, tell me exactly what you mean by that. Like, what does the little things mean? Because a woman can tell you that. You're like, oh yeah, I got that.
All my ladies are like, oh, that makes sense. That makes
And we're like,
perfect
what
sense.
are you talking about? Like, what? Tell me, do I text or do I not text? Like, to be or not to be. So first of all, I wanna talk about the part about the little things and make it make sense. Guys, think about it like this at the gym, right? We all think that we go in there, and because we bench a little bit, then now we're swole, right? Did you feel it? Because we feel it here. Nobody sees it, right? Nobody. You are swole in your own mind, and that's what we mean by the little things. Anybody who's really ripped, they're probably a gym rat, right? They're probably there all the time, or they're consistently there, or they eat a certain way every day or most of the time. That's what we're talking about. So let me give you some straight up things that you can do. Number one of the things that I learned from being married is that you're not always going to be in a good mood at the same time. And that is like, you could have the greatest day and then your wife just got laid off, or she just had a tough day at work. And you're so excited to talk about your good stuff, because when you're single, it is about you. Everybody wants to hear your stuff, or they think they act like they do, because they don't have to live with you, right? They don't have, I'm getting this phone call in and I'm gonna go do me. No, they have to live with you. So checking in and seeing how their day is not just about some random thing that you say. It really is an area of concern, no matter what you've got going on. And we had to learn that. Sometimes we'll share something and we're like, well, did you do this, did you do this? And I'm like, hey, did you hear what I just said about my day? And sometimes we're like, wow, you know what? Today's not about me. You know, what you had going on is way, and as her being a therapist, some days she deals with some heavy stuff. And so if she comes in and she's really down, I cannot take that personally. I have to lift her up and be there. Sometimes it's not even say anything. Sometimes just give her space. So those are two things, giving space. But guys, sending a text, letting her know that you're thinking about her. You know, you can do that while you're single. And women, you can do the same thing.
Yeah, I actually did that today. I actually sent him a text.
I just got it. I just got it this month. I was, man, this NFL draft. NFL free agency, man. You have to understand that today is a big day for me.
Oh my God.
The Lions are signing people.
Speaking of little things, I said, I was at work. I said, I really appreciate him. He does so many things, and sometimes I'm not as verbal as I need to be. So I sent him a text. Still have not gotten a response, but
all right,
it's the thought that counts.
It is. I saw it today while we were prepping for this. You know, and she does.
That's real life.
And that's today. I'm so busy on NFL.com looking to see, Odell Beckham got traded, stuff like that. But and this is perfect. This couldn't have came on a more perfect day. But I really appreciate that. It does mean a lot. I'm glad you noticed the stuff that I do.
Okay.
So noticing the stuff that they do. Guys, let me tell you, notice when her hair is different. Notice they spend a lot of hours, man. It's like being in there for a long time and they come out and you don't even notice or acknowledge it. So, that's one. And then giving small moments of just time. I'm a business owner. In the past, I used to have my phone like this while eating, and we'll be, oh, hold on one second. This is an important call. Now this thing is off. When we eat, I don't even care who it is. It's like a movie. Like people say, well, somebody might. They will be okay. Okay, they will be okay. You are not baby Jesus. You are not the one that's going to save the life in that moment in 5 minutes or 10 minutes of eating. Right now, if you're a nurse or something like that, I get it. It's a little different, but majority of the time you can stop and pause. And this is really big for millennials and people that are getting married in this day and age. When we're single, a lot of times we're so attached to our phones, we're so attached to what's going on out there that you have to stop that and be present. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest little things is to just be present to your spouse.
I'll chime in for the women because we tend to think that men don't really need as much nurturing as we do.
We don't. We're tough.
Yeah, okay.
We're so fragile.
Man, oh my God. Men are a lot more sensitive than we recognize. They need a lot more nurturing than we recognize, and
it's just not as many things that we're sensitive about.
Okay, that's another video.
You see me trying to keep the men
okay.
Nah.
Here's the reality, and a man who is in a relationship or married who gives you a different level of exposure, because I experienced a different level of exposure with you in marriage than I did before.
A lot of exposure.
Okay, that's enough. They show themselves in a completely different way, and so that requires a lot more acknowledgement. It requires, it requires a lot more sensitivity to them. It's not just about us. And as women, we can become comfortable with, being catered to and being loved in a certain way, and they kind of need it just as much, if not more than us. They tend to be more sensitive. I think that women are built for BS sometimes. Like we can take a lick and just keep it pushing. Like we might be more sensitive in terms of our responses, but in terms of life's issues, like women are very strong and they can just keep it pushing. And so just a reminder that, pour into your spouse, pour into your husband, pour into your, boyfriend if you're in a long-term relationship, because that type of nurturing goes a long way and it gives you more of what you want.
And let me break it down for my Neanderthal homies. What pouring into means, guys. That means this is the magic trick. And if you don't take anything from this video, I'm going to tell you how to get more of what you want out of life and marriage. Don't focus on the things that a wife is not doing or your girl is not doing, even though you want to focus on and bring that up. Bring more attention and praise to the things that she is doing or he is doing, and that's how you get more of it.
It works for both.
People love positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And if they're not a cook, they don't cook much, and they attempt it. You got to note. That's a huge number 2. You got to throw that in. Notice effort, even if it's small efforts in the grand scheme of life. Even if they just toasted you a bagel and they normally don't do anything, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for doing this for me.
Right.
Like me, I suck at making coffee, but I do attempt to prep the coffee. I know how to push the button and put this, but the mixing and stuff, I'm not a Starbucks worker.
But I appreciate it because it really helps the beginning of my day. That's one less thing for me to do. And he doesn't understand how significant that is, because coffee, I love coffee just as much as I love it. It's really close.
Wow.
Really, really. I mean, you hit it by a nose over coffee. So that is so significant.
And I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a tea drinker.
So I really appreciate that.
And I had to learn that, I didn't set out to be a coffee maker in the morning, but I'm up early anyway, so I just put the stuff in there and I had to learn how to do it. Okay. But and the last thing is just, guys, really, really just give that praise over and over and over. Is never too much, and be genuine with it. So let's go on to number 2.
So number 2 is how to argue. That is a major tip that is beneficial for your relationship. So what do you think about how to argue? What tip would you give for them?
Well, we set some boundaries first, but marriage will challenge you in ways that I don't care how boyfriend, girlfriend you've been, it challenges you, because when you're single, you can leave. Like, that was my knee jerk. We've been dating off and on, and when times got tough, I would just leave or check out or whatever, and we all have our fail-safe. So we have to learn how to argue and stay. And you sleep next to this person, or you sleep on the couch, guys, but close enough to where you're living with them. So number 1, I would say, set boundaries for yourself. And this is different from all couples. So whatever those are, know what they are. Like, we have a couple boundaries, which we'll just go back and forth. What's one of them?
Not to curse.
No cursing. We've both failed at that several times.
Yeah, but that's not
not the norm at all.
And that's what he was saying about marriage challenging your boundaries. But here's the thing: you don't know you've crossed the line if you've never set one.
Exactly.
So if you fail, then there's no acknowledgement that you have failed if you don't have a goal. So set that intention, and 90% of the time you will stick to it. Yeah. You won't, if you set the intention and you both respect each other and yourselves, you're not going to cross that line every single time.
And then you could catch them.
Of course. And
she's
you
caught me.
Yeah, and we've caught each other, and believe it or not, even at our most heightened state, we're able to come back down because we respect the boundaries that we have set with each other. So that's really important, not to curse.
And just to put this out there, we haven't cursed like at each other like that, like F you or no, it has just been like, man, this is effing crazy. Why is this?
Even in our dialogue
that type,
about it.
we don't let that happen. And then number 2, we don't do no belittling. And belittling looks like, oh, that's why you'll be like your mom, or that's why you'll never amount to this, and your dreams will never come. Like stuff that is below the belt and will hurt. Sexual stuff. I mean, anything that could really because let me tell you something, that stuff stays. Yeah. And you might be done arguing, and that comes up 4 years later.
Because that's the stuff that's a gift that you have that access to your spouse. Your spouse should be the most transparent person to you, and that you're transparent to. And so using that gift of knowing, their soft spots and their blind spots, and then gut punching them, you can't come back from that.
Yeah,
you really can't.
Tough. And we see it a lot on TV shows and Friends and other people, and we're like, ooh, that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah, it's not worth it. And honestly, flip the script real quick. Would you want them to say that to you? What is your goal? Like, in how to argue, you think, what is the goal here? Is the goal to get my point across and stick it to that person, or is the goal to communicate effectively? And you can still do that in arguing. It's not always easy, but you can. So if the goal is to address some issues and express yourself and come to a place where you guys are in a decent space, at least, then you really watch how you say what you say, because you have respect enough for what you both are arguing for, and it's not a pissing contest. So,
and to close that, you got to realize that hurt people. And what you want to do is realize, what's the intention of this person in totality? Does this person really want to hurt me or hurt my feelings? Because sometimes you may be in the calm space and they may be losing it or saying things that maybe they shouldn't. And so sometimes you might have to just kind of let that person breathe, realize that this is anger, this is them, acting out because they're drinking, whatever, they're embarrassed. And you have to maybe pull them to the side or give them space for a second, because I know that she will never do anything to try to really hurt me, right? And if I take it a certain way and I feel that, then I have to step back and say, this is the whatever she's going through right now. And, and some women, they have different things. Women go through a lot, guys, that we don't know about. And I didn't realize it till marriage. Like a lot of stuff that I think men would just check out. We would be filthy, disgusting, and we would just like be Neanderthal for real. If we had to deal with some of this stuff that y'all had to deal with,
yeah,
hormones included, marriage,
everything,
all that stuff.
Okay.
So the third one brings us to a story. Once upon a time.
We could go on and on about the third.
So family.
This won't be the only tip, but this is the one tip for family.
That's another thing about how to argue. Don't bring your family into it.
Yeah.
That's but how do we start the family part? How do you want to label the family tip? Because there's so many levels.
So many levels. So this tip for family is the transition from singleness to marriage and how to prioritize and rearrange all the players. Okay, the players have been mom, dad, sister, brother, whatever, you at the epicenter, and now it's this other person who is the priority. So learning how to navigate that tricky space, because really our parents, there's you won't pick up the phone for anyone but mom or dad. Oh, okay, these are my parents, I have to pick it up. And now you get to a point where your parents might fall to number two, and that's tricky for you. I mean, they definitely do, but it's tricky for you and it's tricky for them because parents don't know how to be number two.
No.
They say, oh, when you're older, when you get married.
My mom does.
Okay. Parents don't know how to be number two. My mom doesn't know how to be number two. Like, I will miss a call at 10 a.m. and she's like, have you forgotten you have a mother? Like, the drama ensues. Like, parents don't ever know how to make that shift, and I think over time they get accustomed to it, but it is very different when parents are number one. Even as an adult, hey, it's my mom, it's my dad, and then now somebody else comes in and they take that number one spot. So learning how to really navigate that transition is really important, and it's difficult for some people.
So you want to talk about what happened when my mom came and started reorganizing stuff in the house?
That's your story.
No, the story is funnier when you tell it.
No. Go ahead. You can tell it.
Come on. The people want to know from your point of view.
So the story is, it's not really, listen, I was at work. This is the first time that my mother-in-law was coming to visit. And I am very particular about what I like and how I like things. The funny thing is she is very much the same way, though. That's like, we're very similar in that way. And, moms, they like to come, they like to help, they see things. And I was excited to have her and host her. And, while I was at work, he was like spending time with her and picking her up. And so there was just a lot of transition going on that I was not a part of, or the possibility of transition, like organizing stuff and changing things and getting things. And it was not, none of it sounded like a good idea to me at all.
My mom was in there looking at shoes and all in the closet. But that's my mom's love language. She does this for my sister. She's very organized, and so she likes to organize things. So to me, I'm thinking, oh, bet she's helping out. She's doing things, and
I gave him the heads up. Like, I don't want anything, cause just no, he doesn't get it.
Well, I get it now, okay? But then, so real talk, I'm literally in Walmart, aisle 7, right? And I'm on the phone with her, and my mom is right here. This is when I really realized I was married. Like, this is...
Well, we were engaged.
We were?
Yeah, we weren't even married yet.
Oh, man.
This was 6 months before we got married.
Well, this is when it got real, okay? Because I'm a mama's boy. Not one of those soft mama's boys that, just, excuse me if you are that. But, I mean, that just cannot put his wife first and deal with. So it's a different levels. But I love my mom, right? And so when she says certain things, as a child, if you have that relationship, you just kind of go with it a lot of times. You really are not used to or accustomed to just putting barriers, no, especially when it's something that they do and you don't have an issue with it. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, bet. I know we're not going to get all the way into things, but we can just get some containers. So we were buying containers, literally buying containers. We don't know the color matches, the scheme match. I know that stuff now. We don't know the size, if she wants that, and the house is the woman's domain, right? Especially her closet. Woo! I know people are commenting like, dude,
Like,
you didn't know that? How did you not know
there?
that?
How did you even get there?
You know, it's kind of like standing in front of the TV during game night. And so we're buying stuff and all this. We're getting groceries. She doesn't care about that. Groceries, schmoceries. That's fine. Okay. But we get it, man. I get on the phone with her. She talks. I'm talking with my mom in the background, and she calls me later, like, step aside. Like, go by yourself. And I'm in trouble. I know I'm in trouble. It's one of those tones like, I'm going to talk to you. And I'm like, what? What's good? I'm like, she's just trying to organize. She's doing this for all of us. And then my mom talking. I give another bonehead. I gave her the phone to my mom.
Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
when I tried to let them handle it?
Oh my God.
I should have handled it myself. That is the key. But what happened?
I mean, I had to be on my best behavior because what are you going to do? But the reality is, and it's not about his mom or anything, the reality is, in this scenario, your spouse is, or fiance is the woman of the house. So what she says goes. And the dynamic is different when you're a daughter-in-law, because if she has a daughter, that's her daughter. So she can do that because she's raised her. But as a daughter-in-law, you're hosting. You want to impress, So and I'm a private person anyways. I mean, I was private since I was a kid. Like, what are you doing in my room type of kid. So for me, that level of exposure, I couldn't even conceptualize it because I'm like, what are you even doing?
And then she's like, what is she doing? What is she touching?
Yeah,
and then it just became.
And then he's like, well, she wouldn't do that. And then it just became a thing. And I was like, oh my God, I had already said, don't let this happen.
Then I made her the villain. And that's a bad thing. I made her a villain with my mom, which is, and then my mom's it's a very, and so if you don't put your fiance, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your husband, wife, whatever, don't put them in situations that you can easily diffuse, because I can talk to my mom a certain way that she just will never be able to talk to her like. And the same thing with her family. So don't don't throw them out, they're hang them out to dry. Handle it. What I should have done, guys, is when my mom said we want to organize, I said, you know what? Let's leave that for Steph. Like, let's not do that. Let's just get groceries and let's just not work. Well, I want to do it. I want to do it. Mom, no, we're not going to do that. We're not. And don't make it about her. It's my decision that we're not doing it. So if I'm the villain, that's cool. She'll get over that in a heartbeat. Her being a villain, they're over it now. I mean, they laugh. We laugh about it. We joke about it. But, that's something that people just don't think about until they're actually in the thick of it all.
Yeah, set the boundaries with your parents. You can easily do it. And I know that if you... for some reason, that's very easy for me, even though my family's from the islands and island people don't pay attention to their kids' boundaries. But that's another video.
That's funny.
But, I can easily say, like, Dad...
Anyway.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
I can easily say, Dad, like, Mom, please, like, knock it off. Like, just do not, on behalf of my husband. Some people cannot. He's never had to. He's the apple of his mom's eye. He's never had to. I have a different dynamic. But set the boundaries with your parents for your spouse, because it just sucks when they have to do it. And sometimes it just is what it is. There doesn't have to really be an explanation. It's just, he doesn't like XYZ. And that's it. He just doesn't like that. So, like, set that intention, because they don't know yet, and the dynamic is just really different. And if you're not the only child, then they will have references where they're like, this is what I do. But there is a little bit of a dynamic when it's an in-law, because there's just a difference. So you just really want to set the boundary with your family so that your spouse doesn't really have to do it. And then over time, you get used to it, and you can set your own boundaries if need be. And then you choose whatever, sometimes you take an L, because parents just can do what parents do. So sometimes you take an L. There's been plenty of times he doesn't want to eat, and my parents make him eat. So
did you eat?
My grandma.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Did you eat?
Yeah, my grandma will force food down his throat. So so he just knows he's going to eat at my family's house.
I just come in, I just get a plate. It doesn't matter, because you're going to eat.
Yeah.
You're going to eat. Grams is making sure
she's
straight up Haitian all the way.
Yeah, pick and choose.
Did you eat? Move her out the way.
Yeah.
He eats. But I love her to death. Mm-hmm. And you got to put your spouse first. Yeah. That could be tough for a lot of mama's boys, a lot of people and that could be tough on your mom. But it's going to come a day where you're going to have to let her know that this is my wife. This is who's first in my life, and they have to know that. And it's in a lot of movies. I think it was like Think Like a Man and all that, where people didn't do that and don't ever do it many times. And I think that can cause, when nobody wants to be your spouse and be second to anybody. and unless it's God, I mean, except for God, and that's it.
Well, and I think it's a practicing thing, which is why if you're in a long-term relationship, you guys are talking about marriage, start making those changes little by little, because the reality is what you've been doing for 30 years, 32 years, 26 years, however old you are, it doesn't flip the script. Not now over time, I'm able to pick up and say, okay, if this is not emergent, I'll get back. But before, it doesn't have to be an emergency because it's your parents. So the dynamic doesn't change overnight, but learn the shift that has to come and learn how to navigate that, because you really won't know how to do it and it will be uncomfortable, but you definitely don't want to make your spouse feel that they are second, because that won't feel good.
I mean, even today, she doesn't even know this, but I talked to my mom today, and we kind of were like, man, we need to see each other more. I went from seeing my mom months out the year, weeks every year, to once or twice a year now. And we're like, well, let's just find, even if it's a quick weekend. And the interesting thing is, even if it's not in our budget for a bunch of flights, because we travel a lot, we have a bunch of stuff, we're still, I already know that she will be okay with that, be okay with, hey, that's your mom, go spend some time. Prior to this, I was afraid to even have conversations, because I'm like, well, we said we're not flying anymore, but mom is different, that's a different. And we might even create a parameter, like, when you find a deal under 150 round trip, or because that does come up from Florida, you can find those deals, then now I know the parameter, boom, hey, I'm going to see my mom for 3 days or for a week and I'll be back. So, but we learned we didn't know that at first. And I think having communication is the key underlying tone of all of this, because it really is about you and your boundaries and what your relationship, what you want to look like. Ours is different than other people. Some people like yelling at each other. Some people like cursing doesn't bother. It really just depends on you. So I'm excited because we had another family dynamic coming the next week about, I'm not even going to spoil it. I'm not even going to spoil it, but you want to tune in, because family is funny, especially whether you're from the islands or not. You're going to get a kick out of this. It's going to be funny because I'm going to make her do some accents, and it's hilarious.
Oh, God. All right.
So I'll let you close it out. I opened it, you close it. But I hope you all got some great stuff from this. And I want you all to test it out. If you're watching this video, test out doing something little, something small, appreciating something that you've never appreciated before, or that they don't even know that you realize. Send a text right now that I appreciate you, whatever. If you don't have anybody
don't
appreciate,
expect them to respond back. Not tonight.
Yeah. If you're not in the relationship, text yourself, because you're awesome. Text yourself how awesome and lovely you are. And the family thing, I love to hear some stories from you all about the family dynamic. I'm sure we got a lot of them. So that's my 2 cents of our 4.
All right, well, he's pretty much closed it out, so don't forget to click the subscribe button once again, and I hope you enjoyed our 4 cents. Keep the change.